Alright, mixing and mastering. We're going to go through how I do it. There's two different approaches for the mastering that I usually do. One's a bit more aggressive that I learnt from Mr. Bill. Shout out to you. And one's just another way. So yeah, we'll get into it. We'll start with mixing down this session. So I'll go through the elements and see what needs to be applied and try and explain why I'm applying those techniques. So first we'll start with the drums. So the kick, I think we could probably, for starters, we'll put a clipper right at the end of this chain because I've got a couple of filters. Who knows what they're going to be doing. So yeah, we'll start with just standard clip. I set this to hard, ceiling on. The hard mode, I don't know what the algorithm does, but when you set this to no oversampling, it seems to just, I can just push a bit harder through this than say Soft Clip Pro and then this on here. You could use this to saturate the sound a bit more, but I tend to get a lot more distortion out of this technique, and what I'm trying to do is basically push the signal as loud as I can without having any distortion. So yeah, that's why I use it like this. So I might just have a look at the kick frequency and span. It's a free plugin. I suggest you get it. It's really good. So let's just have a look here. Yeah. In the kick, I also have these two clippers at the start. So the first one's set to cubic mode. I already covered this in an earlier video, so I won't go into too much. I've just boosted 2 decibels there, and I've reduced it about 2 decibels here. And then I've cranked the gain up here, and I've reduced the ceiling here. So if I just A-B it, it's a much cleaner sound without it on. It's a lot quieter as well. If I go back to our luff meter, you can either look at it down here, or you could probably look at it up here. And if I turn this on, you know, it's funny how both these meters have different readings. What even is luffs? Anyway, so yeah, the reason why I have this on is to get more color out of the sound and loudness. Without it, with it, it's noticeably different. There's a little bit too much information in the low end, so I'm going to just do some EQing in between these two. So, sorry. Yeah, I've got the clipper, EQ, clipper. Then at the end of the chain, another clipper. Some might say that's a bit overkill, but that's what I do, so deal with it. All right. So I might just take a little bit of information out of. It's good to just sweep around. I reckon maybe around 120. Turn the Q up. Actually, no, around 90. Just reduce it by, I don't know, almost 2 decibels there. And if we go to the end of the chain, this final clipper, we can see here that we've got a little bit more room we can squeeze out of this. So I might introduce a decibel, not too much. I don't want to see any red really. Just below that ceiling level. And then I will reduce this ceiling until I just start to see a bit of red. Too much. That's probably enough juice out of it. Alright, so listen to it with the rest of it. Oops. I'd like to look at these hi-hats. So coming into these hi-hats, I think this, when this hits and this hits, it gets a little bit too much, so I might just reduce one of them. And I might just reduce this serum hat here, just by maybe 1 or 2 decibels. Yeah, that's better. I could just start hearing the clipper working a bit too hard, trying to compensate for this thing. Looks like most of this is going to be the same, so I could probably duplicate all of it. Just get to the end here. Yeah, it looks the same. All right. Okay, so let's just, I'll highlight these hats and the kick and see what's happening. Okay, so this hat chain's got the kick on it. I might even just reduce the whole output of the hats by a decibel. Let's have a listen to this sound here. Introduce this sound. Introduce these two. Okay, so what I think we should do is group the 2 main hi-hats that have most of the groove. I'll rename this main hats. And then I feel that every time this hat here hits, we should sidechain it to this main group. So I will put a kickstart 2 on the hats. And set this to audio. I'll go extreme short for this. And then I will choose, it's called 13/8 break. Okay. Yeah, so basically every time that hat hits and that hat hits, this whole hat section ducks to make way for it. And basically it's just to make room for the kick to sit, you know, because once we start pushing the signal, things start to fall apart. And I've noticed, even though hi-hats don't have sub-frequencies in it, when a kick hits and a hat hits at the same time, if there's too much information, it can start to distort the kick. Funny. Funny, not funny. Anyway. So with the whole hat group, I have this EQ on it, which I've rolled off all the low end here with a low cut, and it looks like I've boosted the high end a little bit. So let's have a look at span. I'm pretty happy with those levels. I try and aim for this -30 area with my top end. You know, if I can reach the hats to hit around there, or any other sound that's, you know, has high frequencies in it, I'm in a pretty good ballpark. Same goes for the low end, the sub. You know, if I can get the sub sort of hitting around -30-ish, if it goes over, that's okay. But those are sort of the two areas. Everything else should dip down slightly. Kind of like a little smirk or a little smile. Kind of an old school technique is having a little smile EQ shelf across your entire mix. And after analysing hundreds of songs in the style of music that I like to make, that seems to be a common theme. A little smile. Cool. I think we've dealt with the hats pretty well. Actually, I should come over here and have a look at this. Yeah, that seems to be alright. Okay, so we've dealt with the kick. We've dealt with some of the hi-hats to do with the kick. Now we should go into the snare. Again, with the snare, I have this same technique as the kick, cubic mode, 2 decibels again, about 2 decibels reducted, an EQ in the middle of it. And then we have a clipper at the end to boost the signal. The boosting of the snare signal seems to be a bit easier. You can push it a bit harder because there's not really any low frequencies. You don't hear it distort so much. You do hear some resonance clipping sometimes if you push it too hard, but it seems to be a lot easier to get more volume out of a snare than a kick. Anyway, that's what I've done for the snare. Might be worth going through the hi-hat group and soloing the snare at the same time. It'd be a good idea to actually sidechain the snare to the main hat groove. So to do that, I would duplicate this kick sidechain and just choose snare. Let's have a look at it. Only needs to be just a little bit. I should do it to probably these two guys, actually. If I group them and then put a kickstart 2. So we're going to be side chaining the snare to this sound, these two sounds. So if I go kickstart 2, audio, extreme short, choose snare down here. And for this, I don't want it to sidechain 100%, so you've got this mix control. I might just set this at just over halfway. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and this just helps with the mix down, you know. Every time you start to introduce sounds on top of sounds, it increases the overall volume of your mix and therefore makes it harder to increase everything in volume. Yeah, so you're just trying to make room for everything here. Okay. So if we listen to the drums on their own. Get rid of that EQ. So I've got groups and groups and groups. So I've got the kick and snare in a single group by themselves. We'll get rid of that EQ. I don't think we need that. No, we don't need that. And I've just got clippers happening everywhere. So, you know, the kick's got a clipper, the snare's got a clipper, and then those two grouped together have a clipper. For some reason, that's not the one I want. I go standard clip onto kick and snare. There we go. I do it from scratch. So this is what I've got on the kick and snare group. I'm going to set this to hard clip, turn the ceiling on, turn the oversampling on. And then I might reduce this just by, I don't know, 60 dB. Not even. No, I'll just leave it at 0 actually. So let's just listen to the drums again. What hi-hat is doing that? Maybe it's this. You know what? I think this thing also needs a sidechain to the kick. You can hear a bit of distortion happening. So if I just sidechain that to the kick. Yeah. And that kick and snare and all of the drum elements are going into another group, which is called drums. And that's that last clipper that I was showing you. I literally haven't changed anything here. It's just set to hard clip, ceiling on, no oversampling. And I've just left everything at 0. Yep. And that's just so whatever comes through here doesn't go over 0 dB into this bus. And then that bus is being sent into this bus, which has the drums and the bass, which has another clipper on it, doing the exact same thing. And then that bus is being sent to the master. So there's clipping on the individual elements that need it, and then those elements are grouped together, clipped inside its own little group. And then that group is inside another group that has all the other groups in it, being clipped again. Then that is being sent to this final drum bus that has the subs in it as well, which is being clipped. Then that's going to the master, which is also being clipped. So there's these lots of clipping happening before it reaches the final stages of clipping and limiting. Even though I don't use limiters, I just use clippers, because it's the cool thing to do now. Yeah, and the reason why we do that is to help take off the load of the main master. You know, you could just put a clipper on the master and it would do the same, technically the same thing as all of this stuff here, but it would have to work extremely hard to get it to sound okay, and you wouldn't be able to push it as loud. So all these micro little clipping adjustments help with the bigger picture at the end to be able to push it into a louder luff reading range, or just push it in general. And that's what we're trying to do here, is be able to turn the music up as loud as we can get it without it falling apart. So all this clipping stuff and EQing is the mixdown stage and the mastering stage kind of combined into one, and that's how I do things. So yeah, once we've got that sorted, I feel like we can move on from the drums. We should go into the subs. It's worth to look at it in span to see what's happening here. So, you know, there's our 30 line. It's jumping over a little bit. I mean, I could reduce it slightly, which I probably will. Might take maybe a decibel or two out of it, because then I can push the master up louder, and that would actually bring this volume back up. The louder you push your master, the more your low end's going to fall apart, which means you need to turn this part of the signal down a bit to be able to turn the overall signal up of your mix. Yeah, that's the best way I can explain why people's masters sound like they're shitting themselves, is either they've got too much sub in it, and when they go to turn it up, it falls apart. And it happens when people send me songs to master. There's either not enough sub or there's too much. So it's this fine line between, you know, getting it right. And you don't really know that until you start turning up your master bus. Once you start turning it up, you'll go, okay, there's not enough sub in it, or there's way too much, blah, blah, blah. So with the subs, I could just do it over the entire group, which I might, just for this sake. So I'll just go Pro Q4. I will put it before the clipper here. I should put this filter before the clipper. Might make this dynamic. So yeah, I've reduced the dynamic range by about -2.5 or whatever. Let's have a look on span. So if I just turn this EQ off, I'll bring span up so it's just there. And then with the EQ, all right, it's peaking about there, just below -24. So let's turn the EQ on. Yeah, the main part of the sound is just reduced slightly, and I think that's probably going to be beneficial once we turn it up. In the subs group, everything's being sidechained to the kick. So turn it off. That's what it's looking like. I've just set this to sub bass chain, 100% mix, and chose the kick as the input. So every time the kick hits, that whole group is being ducked. I should mention that, you know, depending where this curve's placed, the further you go to the left, the more distortion you're going to get, because that yellow line is the kick. And, you know, you can see how big it is. So it takes about till here until the kick starts to roll off. And I think, you know, that's when the sound should come in. Just when the kick is starting to roll off, then the sub comes in. So it kind of creates this one sausage. Yeah, that's how I do sidechaining. Yeah, and a lot of the times people's mixes in this style of music, just they don't have it dialed in with the sidechain to the kick on their subs. And it might sound good unmastered, and then they send it to me and I turn it up and I can just hear every time the kick hits, something's making the kick distort, whether it's the subs, hi-hats, or mid-range. Yeah. So sidechain everything to your kick, basically. Not everything, but pretty much everything. It's seems pretty balanced between the drums and the subs. So I think we can move on from that. I don't think I need to do anything because the sounds we've created in here from the last few videos have been processed pretty well with clipping and shaping and whatever else. The mids, there's a couple little random hits here. This has a side chain to the kick and to the snare. So every time the snare hits and the kick hits, this whole group's getting ducked. There's also a clipper on it. And we also have an EQ, which is just rolled off. Anything below 120 Hertz has no frequencies in it in this whole entire group. So playing that with the mids. What I would do sometimes here, because there's not too many of these hits, they're only sporadic, to get them to come through the mix more, we can do some multi-band sidechain to the subs. So the way I do that is using a plugin called FabFilter Pro MB. It's amazing, and I'll show you how I use it. So first what I do is I throw it on the group that, holy shit, that is massive. Whoa, what's going on with that? I'll rescale this. Damn. Oh. Oh, we have a problem. This is horrible. Why is it so big? Alright, just take up the whole screen. Oh, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to quit this thing. First up, I'll just solo the mids. Fuck me. Okay. So the main part of the sound is here. So I would just click and drag. And yeah, you hit up this expert tab here. Hit external. And I would bring the threshold down. The attack and release right down. And the range right down. Okay, so once that's set, because we want to put it on the sound first that we want to come through to see what frequency it's in. You know, so we know, okay, that's the main part of the sound. We want that frequency to duck on the other channel. So we hit expert mode, external, set all them right. Then from there, I would get the Pro MB, I'd take it off this channel and place it onto the sub channel. And then where you've got this sidechain input, I would choose mids. So every time these sounds hit, it's going to make that entire chain duck in the frequency we've selected. And you end up with this. Just ducks a little. So listening to them together. In the mix together. I think we've pushed it a little too far, so we could probably reduce the range. Yeah, just ducking a little bit to make room for that noise. Okay, with the mids, I think we should probably Put a little EQ at the top end. I feel like this sound here could also be turned up. Yeah, give it 2 dB. Perfect. Okay, with the melodic, all we've got it happening right now is just at the intro. So before I showed you that I put this EQ on it, basically I just want to get rid of the low end. Maybe some of the mids could be brought down. Change this to mid. Yeah. Because we don't have anything else in there, we'll just leave that for now. The effects channels. We've got sidechain happening to the kick and snare on the effects. It's exactly the way I've done it on the mids or the subs or anything else. So, you know, I won't go into it again, but it's, yeah, everything's sidechained to the kick and snare. And then we have a bit of EQ here. All the low frequencies are cut out of it. It doesn't really matter where you do it as long as you've got all of that area gone, so nothing hits when the sub hits. It sounds really balanced to me, so I don't really need to do anything there. The vocal.
Fire limited is the port time.
So I feel like maybe this.
Fire limited is the port time.
We could probably do a bit of EQing and compression. So I might start with free clip. No, I won't. I'll start with an EQ. And then I will put free clip at the end of it. I'll set this to cubic. I'll increase this by maybe 2 dB. Reduce this by, I don't know, about the same. Just to give it a bit more volume because it felt like it needs more volume. We'll also have this other plugin. I can't remember if it's free or not. It's called Fresh Air. I'll put it right before the plugin. I'll come back to that. First we'll do some EQing.
Fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port.
Might do some mid EQ here. So get rid of the lows.
Fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port time. Then I fire limited is the port time. 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 Fire limited is the.
Let's do some side information.
Fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port time. Then I was with it. Fire limited is the port time. Then I was with it.
I'm going to turn the free clip down a decibel.
Fire limited is the port time.
Okay, let's go into the fresh air thing. Basically, this just puts a bit of air into it, kind of.
Fire limited is the port time. Then I was fire limited is the port time. Fire limited is the port time.
Alright, so I'll group all the things we just did. It's always good to A and B it. Turn it off. This is what it sounded like before.
Fire limited is the port time.
And after.
Fire limited is the port time.
So you can apply that to any vocal basically, and it's going to make it sound. It should make it sound a bit better. It's not always going to make it sound better.
Fire limited is the port time. Then I was with it. Four times. Then I was with it. Fire liberty is the fourth.
Okay, it sounds good on the robot voice, but doesn't sound too good on that. So I will duplicate this. I will get rid of that. Get rid of that. Same again there. Same again there. And so we'll leave our vocal chain that we've done for the robot voice. And then for the top one, we will adjust it. So I think what we need to adjust is this mid-range here, the side information, and the tops. We'll just bring it all down slightly. See what that sounds like.
Fire liberty is the fourth time. Then I was with it.
And also the free clip, I'm going to basically turn that down. Reduce the ceiling some more.
Fire liberty is the fourth time. Then I was with it.
Sounds a lot better. On the entire vocal group, I have an EQ, so there's no lows. And then we have this vocal doubler that we can turn on and off.
Fire liberty is the fourth time. Then I was with it.
Yep. So I think I've just got that separation set to 54%, variation at nothing, and it gives a bit of stereo width. Then we have a clipper again, same as every other channel. Yeah, so that's basically the mix down so far. We can do some slight adjustments later. Let's go on to everyone's favorite topic, loudness. To be honest with you, I don't think this needs to be turned up anymore. We're already getting an integration of 5.7, which is pretty loud. But if you want to go louder, we probably can. So let's look at our final clipper here. I've got this one set to Soft Clip Pro. I don't know why. Should be hard. Everything hard, bruv. So if you wanted to make this song even louder, you can basically duplicate this clipper. Introduce some gain. No, we'll clip it first. Introduce some gain. You know, if you wanted to squeeze more juice out of it, you can do that. But every time we do that, we'd have to go back through the subs, turn some stuff down, maybe turn the kick down, and then keep increasing this volume here. There's that way, or there's this other way that I've done before that works. So I'm just going to delete that compressor and using a utility after this clip signal and just turning this up. There's that way of doing it, or there's another way where you completely get rid of this initial clipper. And if you look at the master over here, we're going into the red almost 5 dB, and once you hit render, it clips it at 0 because Ableton has an inbuilt clipper into it nowadays. So you can do it like that. It's much more aggressive. It works for certain tunes, more aggressive sounding tunes with already heaps of distortion in it. It seems to work really well, but more minimal tunes, like for instance, this bass bit, I can just start to hear a little bit of distortion. I'm using a really good pair of headphones, so maybe you won't pick it up on your monitors or your headphones at home, but I can just start to hear it. It's passable though. You could totally use it with volume at that level. But I think it's probably better to use with this track. Maybe we could just give it 1 dB. Yeah, I prefer it without it. Let's try it again, eh? Let's try something crazy. Let's try this free clip Vienna, which is probably a really bad idea. Let's introduce 1 dB. Reduce the ceiling, 1 dB. Let's add another clipper after that. I'll just group these together. So before, it's a much nicer sound to my ears, to be honest with you. But then we'll turn this on. It still sounds pretty good, to be honest. Let's do a test here. Remove the free clip. Use standard clip instead of this Vienna free clip. We'll leave this to soft clip mode, soft clip pro. Turn the ceiling on. Leave the oversampling where it is. And if we just turn the ceiling down, turn the gain up. Let's go 2 decibels. Let's turn the clip down here. So if you want a more aggressive sound, you can do it like that. Just having multiple clippers here by pushing the sound. It sounds a little bit more destructive to my ears, but you're getting that much louder, aggressive sound. So the more insane your tune sounds, you know, in regards to distortion levels and all that stuff, makes it a lot easier to do this. But if you've got more of a minimal sound, it's a bit harder to push it to those levels. Or there's another way. So we could just go with our standard clip that we've done here. Everything's set to 0. And then we render the song out and bring it back into Ableton. So I will do that now. I will set this render settings to WAV 24-bit, no dither. There we go, that'll do. Yep. So yeah, all those little subtle adjustments over each group with clipping and volume adjustments and side chaining helps to, add up in the end with final limiting techniques. Sorry about the wait. Cat at the door trying to get in and scratching around. Alright, so what I'll do is just go a new audio track here. I'm going to turn our clipper off on this. Yeah, there's nothing else on here. Shut all that down. Okay, so now I'll bring in the song. Unwarp it. All right, let's have a look at this. Let's try this approach. I'm going to turn this utility on. I'm going to introduce 1 dB. And then I'm going to put an EQ on this. Set it to linear phase. I'm going to turn the low end down slightly. I'll turn that into a whole low shelf. I've just taken almost 2 dB out of that. I will put a clipper at the end of the audio channel, set to hard, no wave sampling on. This is just if you want to pull more juice out of the track in volume. Come back down to here. I'll introduce another decibel of gain. See how far we can go. Let's go 4 decibels. It's a bit much. So now we've got a massive volume increase. I might go happy grounds? Yeah, welcome to fucking McHappy Grounds. Let's go 2.5 and see. Let's have a look at our master. Exactly 2.5 into the red. Yay. So then we could render that out. Cat's going nuts out there. And we will call this extreme. So then we have 2 versions of the master. We've got a really aggressive one and we've got a more dynamic one. So it gives you the option to choose what you like. It's also good to A/B this against other tracks to see what they're doing. Have a look at how loud they are, the loft speed, use your ears, more importantly. To try and get the same dynamic range if it's a similar tune. So what we'll do is turn everything off that we just did to this channel. Oops, I'll duplicate it, get rid of that. Come into this folder, Extreme. Put that over here. And then I'm going to turn off this utility. So now we can A and B everything. So here's our original. So we're getting sort of around that level for the integration. Now with us, our more extreme version. So it's basically a whole decibel louder. Well, I don't even know if you want to call it a decibel, but it's a whole luff louder. It sounds good to me as well. Both are acceptable. It just depends what you want to do. Yeah. And as you can see, with this extreme version, when we pushed it over 0 dB in Ableton, if we go and have a look at the channel, clips it at 0. So Ableton has an inbuilt clipper into it, and Mr. Bill's mentioned this many times before, and he seems to think it's better than any other clipper, any VST. He seems to think it's more clear. I'm not sure if that's still his stance on it nowadays, but, you know, it works. You get really loud songs out of it, but louder doesn't always mean better, right? But it means more exciting to the ear initially, from what he seems to think. The louder grabs your attention more. Anyway, I agree and I also disagree. So, but it is nice to have your tracks, you know, stand up against other artists out there, and for some reason everything just seems to keep getting louder and louder. It's hard to fucking keep up. But yeah, that's basically it for mastering and mixdown. Let's have a look on span. So that's the extreme version. We probably should turn down some of the highs on this. We did the lows, but I didn't deal with the highs. I would bring that down slightly. Just a little bit. Both sound good. I actually kind of like the second one. Maybe you are right, Mr. Bill. Louder is better. Anyway, thanks for watching.